The Roman Empire was the biggest empire from 27 BC to 395 AD, and it also had a very similar political and economic structure to today's world, like the way they ran the empire or the state in today's world, where they had a so-called senate or a group of individuals whose job was to make the policies of the empire, which is where the word senator comes from. Also, one of the things they were entitled to do was to vote or choose the next emperor, or in today's similarity, the president of the country, but they had to keep in mind that the army and praetorians had to accept and respect him too. This leads me to the next point, and that is the rankings of the army, where they were self-sufficient in that under one centurion, which commanded anywhere from 80 to 100 men, were able to do almost all tasks like constructing roads or buildings. To make things simple and not to get caught in the details, I'll only look at 3 hypothetical positions in the army that for sure existed in some way or another, but because it's very hard to compare or almost impossible to compare that day's structure to that of today's modern world. The 3 positions that I'm going to look at are the legionary, the construction worker in today's world, the centurion, or something like the senior employee like a programmer or an engineer in today's world. And then there is the legatus. This was the highest ranking in the army, and the best I can compare him to is like today's CEO. The CEO has theoretically the highest rank in a company and he is looked up to by the employees, but this is not necessarily true all the time if he is not the owner or founder of the company, whereas in this exercise the emperor was more like the owner of the company. While researching this topic on how much someone is getting paid back in those days, there was a lot of conflicting information. For simplicity, 3 out of 5 sites had the same numbers as in the WikiWand website. So, in the time of Julius Caesar, which I think it's the most important time, a legionary was getting paid 225 denarii a year, and using the conversion rate in the comparison table from WikiWand, we can see that 25 denarii were equal to 1 gold aureus. So 225 denarii are equal to 9 aureus. The next part in this puzzle is how much 1 aureus weighed in gold, and again using WikiWand we can see that 1 aureus was 1/40 of a Roman pound, which was around 8 grams. With that said, 9 aureus in terms of gold is equal to 72 grams, so converting that to today's money using goldprice.org, where at the time of recording in January 2024 a gram of gold is 60.09 euros. Which is equal to about 4,300 euros a year, where that translates to about 360 euros a month, and keep in mind that the soldier had to use this money to pay for his food and clothes. This was the lowest rank possible, and naturally he would get the hardest, most dangerous and most labor-intensive jobs. This would compare to something like a construction worker in today's world without all of the safety repercussions. If the legionary was more interpersonal, physically and combat skilled, he could climb in the ranks and reach the rank of a centurion. This would be the highest rank a legionary could reach because it required a lot of time, and also the higher ranks usually came from a wealthier family. I would compare this to something like a manager of some small company or a highly skilled senior of some professional job like programming or engineering. So the centurion would earn around 3,750 denarii a year. Converted into aureus is equal to 150 aureus. 150 aureus converted in grams of gold would be 1,200 grams. Converted to today's money, that would be 71,650 euros a year, or a monthly pay of around 6,000 euros a month. The last position would be legatus. He would have the highest rank in the military and would be handpicked by the emperor. In today's world, I see this as the CEO of a company who is picked by the owner of the company to lead. And naturally, he would get the highest salary. What would that salary be? Well, about 15,000 denarii a year. 15,000 denarii in aureus is equal to 600 aureus, converted to gold is equal to 4,800 grams of gold, and in today's money that would be about 286,550 euros a year, or a monthly salary of €23,808 a month. Now, how does that compare to today's salaries around the world? Using the numbeo.com website to compare average salaries around the world, we can see that most of the world is in green, whereas some parts of Africa are in white. Because they are so very undeveloped, it just makes no sense to include them, I guess, and some Balkan nations also, like Macedonia, where I come from. As we can see, almost the whole world is in dark green. My thinking is that these places were, and some still are, underdeveloped and were conquered at some point in history. Basically, they lost the war, and so now they are under occupation. And what would that mean? Well, that they are now the workforce for the empire, they are the slaves, in simple words, that produce all of the stuff for the richer countries that won the war, like the Western European countries and Northern America. And as we can see, if we stay in the darker green areas of the world, we get an average salary from 350 to 800 euros a month. If we then go to the Western countries, we see a price of around 2,500 euros a month. Compared to the numbers we calculated earlier, we can see that the price ranges are very close to today's salaries. Something that came out as a coincidence maybe is that in my country there is going to be a new law where the minimum wage for a worker to be 23,000 Macedonian dinars a month, or in euros that's 375 a month, which is very close to the amount you would get back in the Roman Empire. Comparing the salary of a highly skilled worker, like an engineer in the Western states, where his salary would be around 5,000 euros a month, because he brings a lot more value than the basic worker, that is the most sensible explanation for me to compare a centurion in today's world. And at last we have the highest rank, and that would be the legatus, where according to salary.com, an average salary plus bonuses for a CEO would be around 800,000 euros a year. And given the fact that CEOs get the bulk of their money from bonuses, I think it's safe to assume that a salary of 286,550 euros a year is a very close representation of the actual salary of a CEO. And of course, Romans also had bonuses in those days, but bonuses depend on so many factors, so it's incomparable. So, what are your thoughts on this? Do you agree that the world is getting paid the same as in the past, or are things way out of balance like COVID showed us? Are we on our way to experiencing inflation like the Romans did or not? Comment down below and tell me. Also, I am thinking of making the same comparison in more recent history where it is also very similar, so tell me if you want to see more. Until the next video, stay mindful.